Good morning. My name is Ben Rogers. I'm the CEO of COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria. Before we start, a few housekeeping matters. For those of you that are joining via Zoom, this AGM is being recorded. Throughout the AGM this morning, you're welcome to leave your camera on, but we ask that you turn off your microphone and speak only when asked to by our chair. Those joining by Zoom will have a view of this room and the current speaker. And we'll make sure to share slides on your screens when appropriate. Feel free to use the chat function found within Zoom for any questions or issues you have, and we'll do our best to respond. There will be opportunity for questions at the end in lieu of any formal other business. Those in person will have an opportunity to raise questions by raising their hand. If you're using Zoom, questions can be posted using the chat functionality inside Zoom. Questions received during the AGM will be collated and asked by the moderator on your behalf at the end of the formal presentations. Any questions left unanswered at the end of the AGM will be answered and sent out to all attendees. There will be an opportunity for questions at the in relation to any motions relating to minutes, financials, or other matters. I encourage you to vote when requested by raising your hand while your camera is on, using the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen in Zoom, or you can simply type your response using the chat section. Those in the room can, of course, raise their hand. So, now that we are truly beginning proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we are meeting, in our case, the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty has never been ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So, welcome to the COTA Victoria 2024 Annual General Meeting. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd first of all like to begin by acknowledging our past president and board members that have joined us here today. So acknowledging Mike Lesky, who is our former president. And of course, joining us online, I believe, is Graham Bird, our former treasurer and deputy president and board member. I would also like to acknowledge honorary life member John Douch, who is joining us today online as well. While we don't have any formal apologies that we necessarily need to go through today, we can definitely acknowledge that I think the weather has played an impact. But I do want to acknowledge the following attendees from representative organisations that we do work with, acknowledging Age Concern Auckland, University of the Third Age, the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, Victorian Legal Aid, and Federation of Community Legal Centres. I would now like to introduce the COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria AGM Chair and President, Robert Caulfield, to say a few words. Robert.
Well, thank you, Ben, and welcome everyone and everybody online who is joining us today to this 2024 AGM. Well, COTA Victoria, Seniors Rights Victoria have continued to deliver impact and outcomes for older Victorians across the last year. We've improved our financial position substantially, our leadership and connections as the peak body for ageing in Victoria and the leading voice against elder abuse. We continue to be in a strong financial position despite a tough fiscal environment where we are reporting this year, which is really great, the $203,000 surplus for 2023-24 financial year, which is building on our great financial performance from the previous year. This puts us in a strong position to handle future economic headwinds in a constrained funding environment that is unlikely to change in the near future. We also managed to secure new funding for projects this year, including from the Transport Accident Commission and AusNet. And thanks to the COTA team for actually doing all that work and securing those funds. It really is terrific. This is all underpinned by the successful delivery of our programs and services. In particular, SRV continues to play a key role in the state's response to and prevention of elder abuse. We are proud to deliver this essential service. It is vital that we drive the agenda around elder abuse, especially as the state faces an ageing population and increasing demand for elder abuse support. Our great work requires the support of a significant amount of funders, supporters and corporate partners. I'd like to list those for you and formally thank each and every one of them for their support of COTA Victoria and SRV. A comprehensive list of all of these people is available on our website. To consolidate our leading position, we made changes to our membership model and constitution earlier this year, which were then approved at a special general meeting in April 2024. This was an important change for which we deeply appreciate the support of our members. These changes, especially the provision of free individual membership, have resulted in a dramatic increase in membership and will put us in a stronger position to leverage our position and members to deliver services for older Victorians. You'll see a number of new membership benefits in the new year. As President, I owe my gratitude to the board who are all volunteers, and to the dedicated team of 30 staff at COTA Victoria and SRV for the successes we've achieved over the last 12 months. As part of this, I'd like to extend my thanks to Peter Conliffe, who's joined us online, who is not seeking re-election as a director. Peter has played a key role in leading and positioning the organisation as the peak body for older Victorians, including Deputy President. I deeply appreciate his skill, knowledge and dedication over the past 3 years. We've also welcomed 2 new members to the board this year, Jared Manser, who is down on the end, and Ray Cummings. I'm very pleased that both have quickly taken on key roles in supporting COTA Victoria and SRV. I would also like to thank our remaining board members, Catherine Brown, Mary Downey, Mark Stokes, Hayley Hunter and Tanya O'Connor. They're all volunteers and put in a huge amount of time to ensure COTA continues to run smoothly. Chris Bataris left his role as CEO of COTA Victoria and SRV in May of this year. We underwent profound change during Chris's tenure and are now in a strong and stable position to continue our important work. And we wish Chris well and thank him deeply for his efforts and leadership. Ben Rogers stepped up to lead the organisation as acting CEO and now permanent CEO in the latter part of 2023-24. Ben's leadership has ensured that our organisation, both organisations, continue to provide premium services, assistance, support, and most importantly, a voice for those we represent that reflect the high standards expected of our community. The board is excited to work with our new CEO and staff across the coming year to cement our leading position. Together, we are excited for the direction of COTA Victoria and SRV as we continue to lead the sector and refine our strategy and approach in 2025. Finally, I thank all of the members of COTA for your ongoing support and look forward to engaging with you and experience even greater successes over the next few years. I'll now hand back over to Ben.
Thanks, Rob. It is an honour to be speaking to you today as the CEO of COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria. Mainly because I think this is one of the best parts of leading an organisation. Getting to celebrate and highlight the hard work, dedication and outcomes of my colleagues from across the last year and acknowledge the contributions of our partners, members, volunteers, staff and board. We have continued to play a leading role in the sector and deliver a range of vital supports and programmes with an impact and reputation that dwarfs our size and funding. Members of our management team will shortly take you through their activities and achievements in greater detail. But first of all, I want to articulate our strategic direction and focus. All of this work across the last year has been underpinned by our strategic plan and its 4 key pillars: influence, partnership, empowerment, and sustainability. Influence. We've continued to build relationships and connections with and across the Victorian government and tirelessly advocate for the interests of older Victorians. We deeply appreciate the relationship we have built with the Minister for Ageing, who we have regular engagement with and who launched our We Add exhibition. But ageing cannot be restricted to one portfolio or indeed just within one team in the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. It is everyone's responsibility. And that is why we engaged all 3 levels of government and developed resources and submissions across a range of issues, including health, aged care, and disability. We take every opportunity to make sure ageing and elder abuse are not forgot about, especially in the context of family violence. And our advocacy does have impact. We were so pleased to see our Planning Ahead programme receive extended funding in the 24-25 Victorian State Budget and increase our great work out in Morwell to help support and prevent elder abuse. Partnership. Our efforts regarding delivering outcomes for the older people we serve through our programs has continued unabated. We continue to deliver essential services, provide vital information for our programs, including Care Finder, Women Working Together, COTA Wise, and our community education sessions. We have helped thousands of people, including some who are facing increased vulnerability and isolation, and make sure they get the help, information, or opportunity to access the care they need. The case studies in our annual report and on our website capture this. I highly encourage you to read them. There's some great things captured there and some awful experiences which capture why we need to do the work that we do. We continue to connect older people to the help they need. Our success at this role means we have become a registered supplier of the Transport Accident Commission and successfully tended to support the development of their older road users hub. This empowerment, this pillar of our strategy relates to maintaining the position of Seniors' Rights Victoria as the only dedicated statewide specialist community legal centre, providing information, legal and social work advice and casework to help prevent and respond to elder abuse. Despite a constrained funding environment, we continue to be the leading sector voice and support for older people experiencing or at risk of elder abuse, engaging over 2,500 in our community engagement efforts, receiving over 12,000 calls, and opening over 100 new cases. We've been impacted by funding cuts, particularly in relation to our helpline, and increasing case acuity, affecting our legal service provision. So SRV has had to focus directly on engagement with older Victorians experiencing elder abuse. The work of our advocates, educators, and lawyers is tireless and incredible, and I'm in awe of them all day, every day, quite frankly. Sustainability. This is the key pillar to ensuring that we remain the voice and support for older Victorians for another 73 years. We continue to demonstrate strong fiscal management, recording a surplus of over $200,000, building on our surplus for last year and putting us in a better position to manage a constrained funding environment. We also continue to build our brand and relationship to media, including a series of interviews on ABC Radio and a strong public presence on key issues such as older drivers and the announcements of the Senior Victorians Advisory Committee. But the key change has been the launch of our new membership framework under our updated constitution, passed via an SGM in April 2024. By once again prioritising membership and making it free for older Victorians potentially facing cost of living pressures, we hope to make sure we can cement our connection with our cohort. So where has this work left us? Well, at the end of 2023-24, and with a bit of poetic license, getting a bit closer here, we have achieved another surplus, despite our funding going backwards by a significant amount. We have found new ways and programs to increase our revenue base, including the delivery of services to TAC and the delivery of research projects led by us. SRV continues to be the leading community legal centre focused on elder abuse. We have seen our membership increase by over 500 members and growing under our new framework. We have never had a wider reach regarding media and communications. We continue to be a leading example of how to deliver our programs, including Care Finders in the City of Kingston. We have never been better connected to the Victorian Government, building relationships with key stakeholders and having a seat on the table of a number of key reference groups. I stepped up into this role in May 2024, so I cannot take a lot of credit for all the incredible things we did in 23-24. But I can attest to the effort that was involved and how our approach is serving us and will serve us well as we continue our efforts to represent and support older Victorians. I do want to place on record and acknowledge the role and efforts of my predecessor, Chris Pataris, in our success over the last year. But the success of 2023-24 does not mean we can rest on our laurels. It means we need to keep going, keep getting better and stronger to support a better vision and outcome for ageing in Victoria. We need to diversify and solidify our revenue streams. We need to strengthen and grow our vital programs such as Seniors' Rights Victoria. And we need to expand our connection and offering to members. As we sit nearly halfway through 24-25, we've already begun that process. We've recently secured new philanthropic funding, which we hope to crow about in the near future. We have just held 12 member events across October as part of the Seniors Festival, while members directly informed our recent budget submission. We are also looking forward in the second half of the year to launching the organisational component of our membership changes. We also anticipate that the tender process for the Care Finder program will be launched, which we will put ourselves in the best position to apply for, to continue to support older Victorians access the aged care that they deserve. I am pleased to report on another successful year under extraordinary circumstances, as well as seek to assure you all that our wonderful organisation is in good hands. I am very excited at the prospect for COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria in the coming years ahead. I want to sincerely thank my staff for their remarkable effort during the past year and our highly valued volunteers for their support and for contributing and informing our activities. I also want to express my deepest thanks to our President, Rob Caulfield, and the COTA Victoria Board for their ongoing support and confidence. So, we will now hear from 5 of our senior management team members regarding the amazing work of their teams and functions in 23-24. So if I could invite Marshida Koltoff, our Policy and Advocacy Manager.
Good morning. It's lovely. Oh, it's a bit loud. It's lovely to be here today. So I joined COTA Victoria 5 weeks ago, very new. So really what I'm speaking to is credit to the team, the policy and advocacy team. We've got Jean-Marc here today in the audience, and then we've got Martin who's joining online. So pretty amazing amount of work that they've achieved. I'd also like to go through what we're focusing on for the year ahead. So at the core of the policy and advocacy team, we're guided by a purpose that's ambitious and deeply necessary. We want all Victorians to age well, to navigate the complexities of aging with adequate support, and to live lives that are fulfilling, valued, and free from harm. So this vision is pretty broad, and the team has spent the last year focused on breaking down our purpose into specific priorities. These priorities provide a roadmap, enabling us to translate a complex goal into actionable steps that bring real change to older Victorians' lives. Our first priority, let me go the right direction, there we go. Our first priority is to actively make space for the voices of older Victorians. So the best advocates for older people are themselves, and they need to be listened to. The next area of focus has been on meeting the needs of Victorians who are affected by elder abuse. Elder abuse is prevalent, it's widely underreported, and those experiencing need to be supported. Thirdly, services across Victoria are facing record demand, which has resulted in longer wait times for care. At a time of great pressure on our health system, we need to ensure that older people get the support that they need when they need it. Finally, in a time of economic, health, housing pressures, older Victorians need support that covers the full experience of aging. So these priorities aren't just words on a page or, slides in front of you. They're a direct response to the needs and aspirations of older Victorians, and they play a critical role in driving our work forward. As pictured on the screen, the team's engagement with stakeholders, communities, and advocacy groups has been extensive, and they've provided community-informed, evidence-based advice on a number of issues. I'd like to take a moment to call out 2 of these efforts and offer some brief insights into what they've entailed and achieved. So, we're funded by the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing to support Ageing Well in Victoria, their plan for 2022 through to 2026. A key task has been helping councils include evidence-based ageing well strategies into their municipal public health and wellbeing plans. These plans guide how local councils address public health issues, and with Victoria's ageing population and some councils moving away from aged care, we developed a resource guide, Building Healthy Ageing into Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plans, in partnership with the Municipal Association of Victoria and input from councils and older Victorians. This was launched in July of 2024. You can find it on our website, and the guide helps councils engage with older people and includes practical steps to support healthy ageing in their 2025 through to their 2029 plans. And we'll continue to support councils in this effort. The second piece of work I'd like to speak to is the state budget. So we've continued to submit these, and it's a crucial opportunity to drive investment in issues affecting older Victorians. Older people often lack priority in state funding due to financial constraints. And to address this, we developed Investing in an Ageing Victoria, submission for the Victorian State Budget 24-25, which identifies 5 key areas for targeted investment. This was creating an informed plan for older Victorians, expanding elder abuse responses, improving health and wellbeing, addressing housing and cost of living, and increasing economic participation. So our advocacy efforts led to renewed 4-year funding for SRV's Planning Ahead program, which was a pretty significant achievement. We'll continue to advocate for the Victorian Government to invest in ageing, highlighting the benefits for both individuals and for the state more broadly. We've also recently released our budget submission for 25-26, so this can be found on the COTA Victoria website. These 2 projects represent just a fraction of the work that the policy and advocacy team has completed over the last year, but they give a flavour of the impact we're looking to make. Each engagement, each initiative, is a step towards creating communities where older people feel supported, valued, and safe. So this brings me to the year ahead. As we look forward, we're building on our achievements while tackling the ongoing challenges with purpose and focus. This final slide highlights our top policy priorities for the year, areas where we believe we can make the most impact for older Victorians. Our work will amplify the voices and vision of older Victorians, ensuring that their perspectives shape Victorian government decisions. We'll continue to work to raise awareness, mitigate, and improve responses to elder abuse. Furthermore, we'll undertake work that addresses the rising burden of energy costs and the energy transition, and that strengthens access to health, disability, and community support. With the worsening housing crisis, housing support will remain at the heart of our efforts. By concentrating on these issues, we aim to meet the immediate needs of older Victorians while building the foundation for long-term sustainable change. Thank you for your attention, and I will pass on to Frankie now, I believe.
My name's Frankie Freeman. I'm the Manager of Education Engagement here at COTA. The Education Engagement Program encompasses mainly 2 funded areas. One is our Information and Lifelong Learning Program funded through the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, and the Employment Support Program funded through the Stronger and More Resilient Communities through the Department of Social Services at the federal level. In terms of the Information Lifelong Learning Program, basically encompasses all of our programs that make sure that older Victorians have information or access to the information that they need. Primarily, this is done through our COTA-wise information line and through community education sessions. So we've been really successful this year, managing to have just over about 120 inquiries responded to through our Ask COTA line. And also we've spoken to over about 1,200 Victorians through our community education sessions. We also develop resources as a part of these programs, but also partner with other organisations and services to make sure the older person perspective is considered. We made a really concerted effort this year to improve the statistics that we collect for all of our programs. One of the things that we're most proud of is including some, I guess, satisfaction and engagement measurements, and we outperformed our goals in this area, which were 75% for satisfaction and 80% for knowledge improvement, and we ended up with both stats in the late 90s, which is really fantastic and a big testament to the work that Liz Leverage does on that phone line. Some key trends related to aged care and the ageing system. We've done a lot of information provision around My Aged Care and service navigation in that space. That's something that's kind of always existed for COTA, but is something that's, I guess, increased in volume over the past period. Unsurprisingly, another increase in that area has been related to cost of living issues, particularly those related to housing and homelessness. But also something that's been a trend that's emerging is related to calls about social isolation and loneliness. So that's something that we have embedded in our next plan with the Information Lifelong Learning Program to try and work out how COTA can address that as an issue. But it's something that we recognise is a really important priority for us going into the future, and we'll probably address that not just with the COTA-wise information line, but with some discrete projects as well. A second main area for the education and engagement team is our employment support program, which is funded again through the Stronger and More Resilient Communities funding. We had a really successful first year of the 2-year funding that we've been provided, onboarding about just under half of the participants we had for our total goal, which is fantastic when you consider in the first year of funding, there's always some onboarding of staff and setting up the program. So to already be at just under half of that period was a really fantastic achievement. We've been having some really key wins in this program, particularly when we compare it to the previous iterations of the employment support program, with the time it took from our participants being inducted to being re-engaged in the workforce shortening significantly. So in the past, we recognised that the cohort of people that we generally supported in this program were perhaps long-term unemployed. When I say long-term, these are sometimes women over kind of 50, 55 years old who hadn't worked for 15 plus years, so had significant employment barriers, and that would take quite a while to get those participants re-engaged in the workforce. This year, we've shortened the time we take from when we get someone into the program until when they've been re-engaged, which is really fantastic and a testament to the work that Shelley's been doing. She's also onboarded some fantastic new mentors into the program. We've had, various types of employment support programs for a long time at COTA, but some of the work Shelley's been doing to make sure we can continue to engage volunteers in that program in a really concerted way and a practical way has been really fantastic. And we've got the caliber of some of our mentors coming through is just through the roof. It's something that we're really proud of with this program at the moment. One of the other things that we do in education engagement is we kind of cover the volunteer programs of COTA, and in this period we implemented a new volunteer framework and changed our onboarding process to the Better Impact online volunteer management system. This was rolled out in 2 phases, initially with the Omni men's group volunteers and our mentors. And it's something that will enable the organisation to be able to manage our volunteers much more easily going into the future. Because we've had volunteers for such a long time, our volunteer management processes for a long time, we're kind of various different people's management systems all cobbled together. So by doing the review and implementing the new volunteer framework, it means we can kind of have one consistent, cohesive volunteer management strategy, which we're hoping will pay off into the future. In terms of what we're looking forward to going into the next period, we anticipate expanding some of our volunteer programs particularly as a part of our Information Lifelong Learning program. We're trying to look at how we engage diverse older people in leadership positions, for volunteer leadership positions, particularly trying to make sure their voices are heard in policy and program discussions. Again, one of the main parts of the education engagement program, like the policy and advocacy program, is to make sure the older voice is heard. And that's one of the things that we're really looking forward to in the future. Next up, we have Angus.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Angus Kerr. I'm the Care Finder Program Manager. I just wanted to give you a bit of a background on the Care Finder program. There's been universal acknowledgement that the aged care system is a complex system and difficult to navigate. And some people have more difficulty to navigate and access those supports than others. So back with the previous Royal Commission, they recommended that a creation of a dedicated navigation workforce be created. And COTA Victoria were involved with the aged care system navigator trials, which then informed the Care Finder program, which started in January 2023. So the aim of the Care Finder program is to connect and engage older people who have significant difficulty accessing aged care services and are at risk of falling through the gaps. Our Care Finder program and all Care Finder programs across the country help the most vulnerable older people who would not be able to arrange aged care without intensive support and who do not have a carer or a support person who can help. The assumption has always been with the Care Finder program that the target group we're trying to work with is going to be really difficult to reach. And that assumption continues to be true as of today. So big part of our work has been developing professional relationships and referral pathways in the community to help identify that target group. So we're really reliant on members of the community and professionals in the community to identify those most vulnerable people. Sorry, just go back. You can see some of the sort of key stats there of the people we've been supporting. With a big part of our assertive outreach is to actually have these engagements. So we've been out speaking with food banks, aged care expos, meeting with assessment teams, hospital social workers, Centrelink staff, senior citizens groups, community centres, in libraries, really trying to reach those people who may come across our target group first and build those relationships. So when we've met with these groups and starting to build those relationships, we're actually entering those people, those referral pathways into our CRM, and we've actually now got a big body of people that we can send a quarterly communique with those people to keep us front of mind about the services we're providing them, and we're updating them with the types of work we're doing. So when they're working with people or come across people, they can see the work we're actually doing and have us front of mind. So I think Ben touched on it before. We're actually developing some really good case studies. So we're putting them all on the internet on our webpage. So I encourage people to have a look at those to get a real understanding of the type of work we're doing. But a lot of the themes we're coming across has already been touched on. Risk of homelessness is a really big one for older people, especially who are in private rental markets and are being pushed out. So that's a real trend that we're seeing as well. And I think policy and advocacy are picking up on that and advocating on that. Some sort of key characteristics of our client group are up there to see. We've only got a small team. It's 1.7 EFT. So we've got 2 care finders, Melissa Arnier and Karen Ivanka, and we've got an admin person. So considering the small team and the region we cover, we're covering the southeast region of Melbourne, and we have a key focus on the city of Kingston. So we can work with anyone across the southeast Melbourne metro region, but our assertive outreach focus has been on the city of Kingston. So we've actually worked intensively with 79 clients in the Care Finder program during the 2023-2024 financial year. And we can work with people wherever they are on their aged care journey. And the aged care continuum is quite large, from people who may have never registered with My Aged Care to people considering moving into residential aged care. So we can work with anyone where they are on that continuum. So what does the future hold? Care Finder was funded until June 30, 2025. We've recently been advised that Care Finder will be extended to June 30, 2029. We're just waiting for the details on how that will be recommissioned. So Care Finder is funded by the Commonwealth Government, but it's funded through the primary care health networks. So where the primary care health networks have been refunded, we're just waiting for more details on how that'll be recommissioned. But from a Care Finder perspective at COTA Victoria, we're really keen to put up our hand to cover more regions and be able to work with more individuals. 2005-25 also brings a lot of sector reform. The Aged Care Act has been passed as of Tuesday, but the big changes in the aged care sector is for us and for our client group is the single assessment teams. A lot of you would have heard that local councils have stepped away from assessment in June this year, and what that has brought is a lot of new providers in that space for a small, short period, only for 6 months. So we're still waiting to hear what the tender will look like and who will be successful in that tender, but there's potentially going to be new providers entering the market. So for us, it's around, developing those relationships and referral pathways and helping our client group navigate that as well. The other major reform happening is the Support at Home program, which will come into play the mid 2025. So from a Care Finder perspective, we've really got to be on top of those reforms and become the experts in that area, so we can sort of help our client group navigate that space. That's it for me. Pass on to Steve.
Hi, everybody. Hi to Zoom. I almost cropped off Angus's head accidentally when I zoomed in the camera, but I think I was safe. You saw my back before, and I'm typing to you in the chat. I will get back to the chat. If you have any questions, please put them up there, and I will attend to them when that portion of the meeting comes. Housekeeping. I will be not offended in the slightest if every single person in this room gets up as I'm speaking and goes and gets more coffee and tea and breakfast, especially the board. It's fine. Just please, if you are feeling like something to eat, please go. And thank you to the Australian Nurses Memorial Centre. I was terrified I was going to get that wrong. And Liz, who I don't know if she can hear me because the door's closed, but this is a great space and I'm really pleased with the turnout. Thank you everybody for coming online, in person. I'll be quick. I'm better seen in the background and hardly ever heard, as evidenced when I was, changing the camera. So my work really is with all the teams that you've already heard from. I'll take credit for a little bit of each thing that they've already talked about. But I do marketing, communications, and I also do a bunch of stuff with membership. So that's what I'll focus on today. Ben's not going to like the next slide, so let me go to that one really quickly and stick on this for a while. I've had this position for about 2 years, and since starting, especially with this last reporting year, I've doubled what we did in terms of media outreach. So doubling the amount of appearances we've had in the media and doubling the amount of media releases that we've issued from COTA Victoria and Seniors Rights Victoria. You'd be surprised how often the Victoria doesn't get included in the media, and I got to go back and get it changed because we're obviously just this state. What was I going to say about that? Wasn't important. Okay, we'll go to the fun slide. Not a great photo of Ben, honestly, but it was on 9 News, so we're gonna take it. Sorry, Ben. I'll stand up in the way of the slide. So this was Ben appearing on 9 News when he was talking about how we believe mandatory driving tests for older Victorians is ageism. Other trending topics are there at the start of the reporting year, a lot to do with funding cuts to Seniors Rights Victoria. There's been other issues, including closures in aged care, cost of living, which continues to be an issue. Elder abuse, especially around June when we have our Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and hopefully a month-long kind of campaign around that. And the Senior Victorian Advisory Committee, which we hope to be on. I think the nominations have passed from general public, so we're just waiting with crossed fingers. There we go. Next slide. No more photo. In terms of membership, we, as was already discussed, took membership from COTA Australia nationally and took it in Victoria, obviously, with our state. Other states and territories did the same thing. We have a bunch of numbers that are slightly different there because the tile was made for the annual report, and then I kind of pulled the numbers, I think, for the end of July. But now we're at pretty close to 1,500 members. And when I did the numbers, it was 584 new members since June 2024. And that's when membership went to the free model that you are all in the room taking advantage of. So thank you. Tell a friend. I have flyers. If you want to sign people up for members, come see me at the end. We're planning for organizational memberships in 2025. And the idea there is to generate some revenue that we then funnel back into the individual membership base. Stats there about the subscriptions. So that's the email newsletter called COTA Connects that we send out to members. It's a member-only benefit. So if you want the latest and greatest from us, you have to sign up. It's a bit of a give and take. And social media, we have 3,500 odd followers across different channels. Something that I am very proud of, and I'm going to take credit for the Seniors' Rights Victoria website as well, even though it was technically after this reporting year. We've redone both of the websites. I think in the past, the websites were more form over function, and now hopefully they're form and function, so easier to use, to navigate, to find what you're looking for. So there's an example of what the COTA Victoria website looks like on the left. In terms of stats, we had just over 500,000, we'll just say 500,000 website views across the various websites that we have. So there's not only COTA Victoria and Seniors' Rights, but World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, the Assistive Technology for All website. There's a couple extra Seniors' Rights ones for lawyers or for toolkits. And I'm missing one, Bold or Not Alone, which is a campaign we ran last year. Social media impressions, we got close to 100,000. So always room for improvement. It's that tricky situation where a lot of the platforms are either not as stable as they used to be in the case of Twitter, perhaps, or in terms of Facebook, there's an increasing kind of challenge to pay for more views when we're a not-for-profit, and I would try to avoid that if possible, of course. That's me. I will pass back on to Ben and stop plosiving into the mic, sorry, who is doing a presentation on behalf of Avatal, who is unfortunately unable to be here.
Thank you, Steve. So yes, Avatar is unable to be here today. Hopefully we'll be able to announce a bit more on why that is, but it's really good news. So the 2023-24 reporting period illustrated the breadth of work performed by Seniors' Rights Victoria, and it also illustrates the challenge that it faces. We've received more calls than ever. Though following a reduction of our helpline funding, SRV has had to cut helpline resources. This meant prioritizing calls made directly from older people experiencing abuse or at risk of experiencing abuse, and directing loved ones, friends and families and concerned others to our print or website resource. Despite this act of triage, we experienced a concerning and significant backlog of unanswered calls. Simply put, we do not have the current capacity to meet demand from older people themselves in the midst of prioritizing these actions, which is a deep concern for us. Despite this, we were successful in meeting our funders' KPIs. And a part of this includes our casework. As we've said, we've seen increasing acuity with a distinct gender breakdown in who we have been supporting and helping, which aligns with broader trends in elder abuse. 100% of our appointments with 251 clients led to legal advice. 86% received non-legal advice. And 28% identified themselves as either homeless or at risk of homelessness. And I think this continues a trend that you'll have heard throughout all our presentations today. The intersection of housing and aging is inescapable, and it is a key social determinant. And as part of this, we saw a number of concerning trends around that acuity. In particular, we had one case, our cases remained open for an average of over 500 days. That means our lawyers and staff are supporting them, and it means we cannot take on new cases when demand reaches its full extent. We've had 9 matters which have been ongoing since 2021. These are multi-year cases that we need to support, where other support is not available often to these clients. One of the most interesting and proud things about what we've achieved is we have returned $3.5 million to those that we have been supporting. And a key trend which surprised us, and I think is surprising in the context of family violence, is that 66% of our identified perpetrators in 23-24 were female. This goes against established trends for family violence, where you are more likely to see male perpetrators. In terms of community education, which is another key part of what we do, we delivered demonstrable success for this reporting period. We held 58 talks over the year, engaging with over 1,500 attendees. As part of these sessions, we continue to build partnerships to hold coffee and chat sessions with the deaf community and help skill those up at the Ethnic Community Council of Victoria to support culturally and linguistically diverse communities and ensure effective outreach into those communities. Our Planning Ahead program focused on Shepparton in the past year and offered 13 sessions to over 200 participants. We were really pleased to see continued funding for this in the 24-25 state budget, and the program has shifted its focus to Morwell and the surrounding areas this year. We also took part in Avatar's word, but I think it does sum it up quite well, a gigantic World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, or WEAD campaign in 2024, partnering with the Housing for the Aged Action Group and the City of Melbourne to launch a highly successful campaign titled Warm Safe Home. WEAD is celebrated every year globally on the 15th of June, providing an opportunity for communities to stand together against the abuse, mistreatment, and neglect of older people. Elder abuse comes in many forms. It can be financial, emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, or social. Elder abuse can occur once or many times and can vary in severity from subtle through to extreme. It can also include one or a combination of the different types of abuse. In regards to the Warm Safe Home project, we use the icon of the house to talk about the older people's rights to feel safe and live free from fear. In elder abuse situations, however, the home can become a place of danger. As part of the project, small-scale model houses are handcrafted and decorated by students, artists, seniors, carer support groups, professional organisations, and other community members. We encourage groups such as these to host their own Warm Safe Home crafting event to produce these models, aiding these groups to rally attendees. As part of the programme, we provided crafting events with our own peer educator speakers to discuss elder abuse in all its forms and what can be done to create real-life, warm, safe homes. We showcase many crafted homes as a launch exhibition that took place at the Melbourne Town Hall on the 13th of June. The session was opened by the then Deputy Lord Mayor of Melbourne, now the Lord Mayor himself, Nicholas Rees. The Victorian Minister for Ageing, the Honourable Ingrid Stitt, officially launched the Warm Safe Home programme itself, also activating an online exhibition of warm, safe homes that can be viewed at any time on our WEAD website. The event was hosted by our COTA Victoria board member and the former Ambassador for Elder Abuse Prevention, Jared Mansour, and alongside a speech from myself and featured Haag CEO Fiona York and Homes Melbourne Director Joe Cannington. The event concluded with an all-important intergenerational discussion on elder abuse between Warm Safe Home programme participants. We are very proud of the work. I do highly encourage you to have a look, perhaps in your own time, of this video, which really captures some of the great features of this programme. And we look forward to continuing to supporting WEAD across the coming year to make sure that people are aware of these pressures and this issue. With that, I'd like to thank my senior management team members for their presentations today. I do hope you found it interesting in the person and online. But we will now be beginning the formal proceedings for the AGM. And I would now like to hand over to the AGM Chair and President of COTA Victoria, Rob Caulfield.
Thank you, Ben. I think everyone can see that there has been a tremendous amount achieved in the last year, and the years ahead are looking very good. And I think everyone should be very proud of what's been achieved. So we have some formal things to do. It's pretty quick, and then the meeting will be over. So the first item that we are required to do is to adopt the motions, adopt the minutes of the previous annual general meeting, which was held on the 22nd of November 2023. Now, you've all had access to a copy of those minutes, and hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at them. So I'm calling for a mover to accept those motions. Mark Stokes, seconder. Mike Lesky. Any comments on the minutes? Anyone wants to say anything or ask any questions? No? Well, I'll call for a vote for acceptance of those minutes. All in favour? It's carried. The second item, we had a special general meeting, which we held on the 18th of April 2024, and that was to actually make some changes to the Constitution. And probably the most important one of those is to change the membership status or the membership criteria of COTA to enable us to have free membership. And as Steve has pointed out and Ben's pointed out, membership has gone through the roof. And it's our objective to have that increasing dramatically and then provide more benefits to all of those members. The minutes of those meetings, that meeting has also been sent around to everyone for comment. So I'd like to call on a mover to accept the minutes of the special general meeting on 18th of April 2024. Mark Stokes, seconded Hayley. So are there any questions of those minutes? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favour to accept? That is accepted. I'd now like to call upon our most marvellous treasurer, Catherine Brown, who has been in this position for a number of years now, and I'd have to say has, along with Janet, has steered the finances of COTA over the last few years in a marvellous way. And the forerunners, Mike Lesky is here too as a former president. Obviously, the finances are dear to everyone's heart because it makes everything tick. So, Catherine, I'll hand over to you.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Catherine Brown. I'm the Treasurer of COTA Victoria. On behalf of the board, I have great pleasure in presenting the Treasurer's report for the financial year ended 30 June 2024. The financial statements for the financial year show a net surplus of $203,000 compared to a net surplus of $168,000 in the prior year. This increase is due to a decrease in payroll, contractor, and consultancy expenses. This is a pleasing result for the organisation for the year. Total income for the year of $3.7 million has decreased by 3% compared to 3.8 in the prior year due to a decrease in funding. State and federal government funding represent 96% of total revenue. Total expenses for the year of $3.5 million have decreased compared to the prior year of $3.7 million for the reasons already stated. Payroll and other employment expenses continue to represent 82% of total expenses. Total current assets are approximately $1.5 million, up by 27% from the prior year due to timing and the receipt of receivables. Cash assets represent 99% of this balance. There is approximately $600,000 in current liabilities, which include lease liabilities and grant income received in advance. Overall, the net asset position of $868,000 remains healthy and has increased compared to the prior year by 30%. There have been no significant change in accounting standards during the financial year. Subsequent to year-end, there does not appear to be any significant uncertainty with respect to events or conditions which may impact unfavourably on the organisation in future years. Management will continue to assess and implement the decisions necessary to keep the organisation in a healthy financial position and provide a solid base for the next 12 months. The auditors have issued an unqualified audit opinion on the financial statements. There were no uncorrected errors at year-end or significant management or internal controls noted. The Audit and Risk Committee and the board would like to thank the auditor for their service and ongoing support. Finally, I would like to thank the members of the Audit and Risk Committee for their continued commitment and support during the year. Also, I'd like to thank Ben Rogers and Janet Zhang for their support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. So we now need a motion to accept the Treasurer's report. So yes, we'll get first of all a mover and a second, then we'll question it. So do we have a mover? Tanya has moved and seconder, Mark. We've got a mover and a seconder, so we can now take some questions. That's
I just for everyone else's benefit, we are referring to note 3. So thank you for your question. Just for those, the benefit of those in the room and also those online, the question has been asked about the funding that COTA receives from Victorian Legal Aid. This refers to note 3A in the financial statements on page 13. And this detail I'll hand over to Ben to answer.
So thank you for the question. So the funding that we receive from Victorian Legal Aid is it's partially part of the funding that we receive from the Department of Justice and Community Services, and it is funneled through Victorian Legal Aid. We receive this funding to support our integrated model for Seniors Rights Victoria. But in particular, it supports the work and activity of our lawyers as part of Seniors Rights Victoria. So all those cases that we do in terms of supporting people, whether it's through legal proceedings or other sorts of legal advice, that's what we receive that funding for, and that facilitates our ability to do that. Does that answer your question, or is yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions about the Treasurer's report? Well, we have a mover and a seconder, so we'll call for a vote for the acceptance of the Treasurer's report. All those in favour? That's passed. The next motion we need to look at is the appointment of the auditor. The auditor for the last few years has been the Banks Group, and we're quite happy with those. Obviously they're helping us get a good result and make sure it's all legal and nobody goes to jail. We've succeeded so far, and that's all pretty good. So could I have a mover to appoint the Banks Group as the auditors for the coming year? Oh, Catherine, yes. Do we have a seconder? Yes. Sorry? Have you? Yes, okay. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Agreed. So that's done. So we need to announce board positions, Ben. So that's a pretty quick one. If you...
So following the process that you will have all received as part of this AGM, in my role as reporting officer, I'd like to declare the following. Director Robert Caulfield, being eligible for re-election, has been re-elected pursuant to Rule 52.7 of the Constitution for one more 3-year term to serve the organisation. This does leave because there were less nominations than there were open position, this does leave a casual vacancy on the board as captured under Rule 54.1A of the Constitution. The board can continue to act as set out in Rule 54.3. The board may choose to fill that position across the coming year pursuant to the terms of Rule 54.2. Thank you.
The last item that we've got is to take any moderated questions that Steve may have. Before we do that, I would just like once again to acknowledge the service that Peter Condliffe has provided. Thank you, Peter. He's watching online. He has had some health issues and we all wish him very well. and we're hoping he can join the COTA board again at some time in the future. His role being a barrister and a mediator has been invaluable with some of the difficult things that come up on boards from time to time. So thank you, Peter. So questions, Steve, do we have any questions?
Fine, but I guess now we can open up more questions to the room. I'm going to try this. Apologies. If it doesn't work, we'll always switch back. Can I? It works. Maybe we'll hold the microphone way out here and then follow her. Great. Yeah, well, no. Yeah. And then hit the second button too. Other second column. Nope.
There'll
There we
be
go. Sorry.
there'll be a prize awarded at the end of this, whoever gets it right.
Could you repeat it for Zoom just in case they can?
Yes, Michael.
Mike Lescott. First of all, thanks to all the volunteers. I really respect the hours that every volunteer puts in. From the members, they'd be interested to learn what board and advisory committees work towards you, Rob, and which board members that volunteer on those committees. Obviously not the belonging, so just the involvement, the support you get.
Okay, the question was from Mike Lescott, and it was about what committees we have, how many volunteers. We have something like 110 volunteers, I think, on different different things at the moment, but a number of subcommittees, and probably Ben, be easiest if you can mention those. You'll be more up to date than me, but there are a number of them, and we have Frankie is putting in place a volunteer recognition program too for the work that some of the volunteers already have been recognised, but we're going to expand that as well because volunteers are an extremely important part. So Ben, if you could perhaps just give us an overview of the committees and
Absolutely.
there's many of them, so we may not remember them all.
In terms of direct board subcommittees, we have the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee, of which members here today we have Catherine, Ray, Mark and Tanya. We also have the Governance and Risk Committee with members of Ray and Mary. And we also have the Executive Committee, which features, Rob, Tanya and Catherine, and the departing Peter Conliffe at this stage. And that will change. In terms of advisory committees, which I think is a key thing here, we currently are in the process of looking to relaunch in the new year 3 advisory committees related to the Policy Working Group, the Seniors Rights Victoria Working Group, and we have the Business Development Committee, and we also are looking at how the Older Men New Ideas program that can have a reporting mechanism. Those advisory committees report into the CEO, who then reports that onto the board. But we are looking at how we can do that and who is best placed to sit on those committees to inform our work as volunteers. So thank you for the question, Mike.
But answer your question, Mike? Yeah. Steve, do we have other?
One and then
Yes.
2. Floor is yours.
My name is Felipe. I'm a new member of COTA, and I'm doing it with one of the things I like to mention today is think about you. It means different things. It can be challenge. And I think the title, that's more. That 50-30. We need to put help another way. And for people who don't speak the language very well, and more. Research and internet access policies are very important in terms of making space for all the people to participate at different levels.
Okay, can I perhaps summarise that for the people who are online? The question is, what is available for people from different ethnic backgrounds? The comment being that the aged care system is extremely difficult to navigate for English-speaking people and more complicated for people who perhaps aren't conversant with English, and what can be put in place and what can be done to assist those. And COTA has got some things in place. Who is best, Ben, to answer that? Frankie.
Thank you for your questions and comments. One of the things that I just wanted to jump up here and mention is that we've made a massive improvement with our Ask COTA line and our community education sessions, particularly for older members of the culturally and linguistically diverse communities. Over the past period, I didn't mention, but we've increased the amount of, I guess, migrant or a language other than English groups that we've presented sessions to. So we do that through either interpreters or co-events with interpreters, or having more resources in language. So that's something that we've actually made a really concerted effort to improve. And we've also included it in our work plan for the next coming years to continue to increase that. Also, with the back to some of the statistics collecting stuff, we now collect through our phone line and our community education whether our participants or the older people that we come in contact with are from cold backgrounds, which is really important to reflect the work we do. In the past, we probably weren't as good as we would have liked to be in terms of understanding who we're presenting to, but now we have that information and we can kind of track it. So at the moment, it's about 30% of our groups come from cold backgrounds. Also, we have mechanisms through our phone line where we can have people linked to interpreters. We have a special code. So if someone wants to ring us and they identify that they don't speak English very well, Liz can have conversations with them and we can have those conversations through interpreters. But yeah, I did want to mention, not only do we have some really important things in place with how we do it at the moment, but it's something that we're definitely working on increasing, and particularly that question around leadership and how we engage people from various parts of the older Victorian community. That is an absolute clear outline, something that we've put into our work plan for the next year to make sure that our, I guess, engagement leadership programs that we're aiming at older people have a significant level of diversity. So to make sure that we're going into regional communities, cold communities, communities from low socioeconomic communities, to make sure that the representatives we have on those groups are reflective of the whole of the Victorian community. So I think that's an absolutely fantastic point you make. And I just wanted to express that we have a really wholehearted commitment in that area.
Thanks, Frankie. We had a question up the back first, and we've got another one here.
Also, we have no information for that in place. But this is, you know, that's why it's so great. That's why I think that's good. So, really, I would say, I like to say,
Do you want to take? Okay, so it was sort of a part of question and a comment for those online. It was particularly talking about the City of Kingston and how difficult they are to deal with, and also looking at what education resources and things like that. But Angus is probably best to maybe
probably address
encapsulate that question
both
and
questions
the
as
answer.
well.
Good on you.
Yeah, I guess the Care Finder program, you know, Frankie talked about education. Ben's talked about our policy and advocacy around navigation. You know, navigating the aged care system is really challenging for everybody, but it's more challenging for more vulnerable people and, you know, people who English is not their first language. That, you know, they fit within the target group of that most vulnerable people. So there is the Care Finder program, I guess, operates across Australia. So we've got a focus working within the City of Kingston, but we work outside of that in the Southern Metro region. But there are now Care Finder providers in covering every municipality across the country. So, you know, those vulnerable people who are at risk of falling through the cracks, you know, and where there are barriers in terms of accessing support, and English as a second language is one of those, we can actually then provide intensive support to people to navigate the aged care system. So we're trying to, from that navigation point of view, at COTA Victoria, we're trying to cover all aspects, the educational aspects, which Frankie's looking at, the policy and advocacy, but with the Care Finder program that I'm involved in, we're actually doing that intensive work directly with people as well. So.
Yeah, I think maybe the big thing.
Thanks, Angus. And I think we have a new member who is well connected with the state government and the federal government. So I'm sure we'll be well and truly in contact with you. We need as many contacts as we can get. Now we had another question here.
And I've told the people who are used with my government ignore your own children and go to the grandchildren directly. And that usually works. But the young kids doing the right thing, and or your local library. They're extremely helpful, except the kids don't work. And that's what that is. So grandchildren.
Well, for those online, it was more a comment, I think, that if you're looking for things to help you as you're aging and so on, don't ask your kids, ask your grandchildren. Oh, I see. Well, I know from my grandchildren, if I could get them off their devices to talk about anything, it would be a success. I don't have to worry about that with my kids because they're also trying to get the grandkids off their various devices too. So, but I think it's a bit of an indication in this day and age how quickly technology is changing. You know, we can get very quickly left behind. And I'm sure our grandkids, as they get older, will be able to help all of us. Yes. One more question. John, yes.
I'm wondering, there's another seniors organisation called National Seniors, and I'm wondering, if you look at COTA and you look at National Seniors, I'm wondering how much they kind of overlap and how much they're different in focus.
Okay. John was making a comment that there are other organisations sort of in the COTA sphere. How much do they overlap? How much do we work with each other and things like that? We do get approached from time to time from similar organisations wanting to amalgamate, collaborate, change, and so on. And what I'd have to say is that the staff here at COTA know all about them. There's a good collaboration with these people as best they can be, because quite often The funding criteria is different. Like most of COTA Victoria's funding does come from COTA Victoria. Other organisations get their funding from the federal government. COTA's from the Victorian government. So there is this sort of, and quite often with funding, there are conditions tied to it that you can only spend that Victorian money in Victoria and things of that nature. So there are complications, and there are quite a lot of organisations in that in the aged care sphere. And I'd like to think that most of them were collaborating. Before joining COTA, I was involved with KidSafe, as Mark Stokes has, who was just stepped down as a board member of COTA KidSafe last night after 25 years. And I'd have to say the conflicts within the child accident thing were quite substantial. There were so many conflicting people. In my experience in the aged care area, that it's probably more collaboration than conflict, I think, in most of these places. But there's always emerging new organisations and associations, and always potential collaborations that we could do with other people. And I think it'd be fair to say you guys are pretty well up to date with everything. Yeah. Okay. Yes, we have another question. Thank you.
I'm smack in the middle of an age group. And terrible baby boomers. I've ruined the economy. I've made housing expensive, but I'm looking after my 5 grandchildren on and off. Still helping my own children, and have just recently stopped having to look after my mother and father. Does COTA do anything? I should say, we get a little bit sensitive about elder abuse, because we do know that there are situations in aged care where the children get accused of all sorts of terrible things. So now you're really looking after 2 generations, aren't you? My generation and the very, very old, but I'm still looking after one lady for 143 and that's going to continue. It's going to get worse. What are you doing to help the 2 generations get on with each other and to protect my generation? We're actually exhausted.
I can identify with you there, because I'm a boomer too, but I'm 5 years older than you, so I've had it longer. So, do you want to comment on that? Yeah, it's a complex question, I think, with baby boomers, and I think many of us have been very annoyed at the things that we see in the paper that it's the boomers' fault. I think realistically, most people don't think that. It's just that's my view anyway. My kids are very supportive of boomers. I think probably because they think they're going to inherit a bit of money, whereas my wife and I are planning all sorts of grand trips, which of course is the other complaint about boomers. So, Ben, yeah, skiing, spend the kids' inheritance.
Thank you for that question, because I think it's such an important issue. And really, I think what you've identified there is really what underpins a lot of what we're doing. It's ageism. That is pure and simple what is being experienced by particularly baby boomers, but other aspects of people over the age of 50. And it's a demonization that we do not like and do not appreciate. I can safely say we looked at the most recent state budget by the Victorian government. The only place that you ever saw mention of older people, and the entire thing was in document 2, where essentially older people were blamed for the housing crisis. That was the only mention. We were furious. And that's part of our advocacy to say that's not okay. 1, that's not the experience for all older people. 2, it's not their fault. It's not the way you're going to solve this problem is by demonizing a certain generation. The great thing about COTA Victoria is that we representing people 50 plus, we capture so many generations, but we are definitely cognizant, and this is a phrase into the baby boomer I've heard recently, the club sandwich generation, in terms of being stuck in the middle between aging parents, children and grandchildren, and those demands increasing. And I think it's important that we encourage and make sure people recognize the value of those community connections that particularly older generations provide in providing that unpaid labor, particularly as carers. It's one of the key things that we're engaging with the Victorian government about now. They're looking at their strategy around carers. And for us, aging carers are the key part, because the unsung heroes are really what we see. In terms of what we're doing, it's constant on different fronts, especially against that demonisation. And we really are keen to push that ageism, because the end result, push our arguments against ageism, because the end result can sadly be for some people elder abuse. But there's nothing positive in the lead up to it, you know. And I think it's important that if Victoria is to understand how it's aging, because there's only more older people technically by definition in the state, we need to have a much more caring attitude to our older people so that they feel valued, connected, and we actually recognise the great impact that they have, and we don't just demonise them. But a great comment and question. I hope that addressed some of what your concerns are there. Thank you.
He'll be a boomer one day, but they won't be called boomers. So we all get there. Any other questions? Are there any online, Steve, that have come in? No questions online. Any more questions here? Oh, yes, another one. How much? 8,000 to replace smoke alarms. Oh, so a comment more than a question. That was that there was a problem with my aged care, the way the funding is allocated, and how things are done and how they're changed, how they're charged for, I think. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but I can say that if COTA becomes aware of issues like this, Angus, do you want? Okay, so you've got to get some personal advice from Angus later on, because the suggestion was that it cost $8,000 to change his smoke alarm batteries. So there's obviously something wrong there. We're running out of time. Are there any other questions that anyone has? Steve has got a question. Oh, how hungry. And I'm hoping the people online have had a cup of coffee and can get a cream cake or something like that as well. So if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I think you can see that COTA is in good hands. It's got a good program for the future. It's financially well off, and we've got lots of good initiatives, lots of keen people. And I think things will only go upwards from here. So thanks very much for coming, everyone. Thanks everyone online for being connected today. And I now declare the 2024 COTA Victoria Annual General Meeting closed. And help yourself to the food.